Hello there, this is Stormdog, and this month I have taken on a big project putting out a video every week that triggers my nostalgia of spooky days. This week I want to take a look at a movie that I knew growing up as The Crawling Eye. This movie has always been connected to Roger Corman in my brain, although I don't think he had anything to do with it. Simply him introducing it on an old AMC Monster Fest. The movie originally comes from the British market where it was called the Trollenberg Terror in 1958. The movie was brought to America, renamed, and cut up so they'd skip those suspense parts and just get straight to the monster. This time I watched the British version and quite like it. The IMDb entry for them lumps them together, but they're different enough versions I wish they'd separate them. The British version is better with a stronger narrative. There is some decent gore for its time in here that really surprised me, with, say, decapitated torsos. It was originally rated X in Britain for these reasons. Even as an adult, I still really like this movie. It helps I watched the proper British version when I revisited it. They were smart enough when they originally filmed it to throw in a middle-aged white American male as basically the main hero to guarantee sales in America. This is basically what they did when they brought Godzilla, the original film, to America. Although in the case of Godzilla, they cut up the movie and added a white male reporter to explain the story to us. The American version of the Trollenberg Terror, called The Crawling Eye, doesn't add any footage, it just cuts to a shorter runtime. They felt audiences wanted monster, not suspense. This is why I wish Trollenberg Terror had its own page on IMDb. Let's take a look at the story. Two sisters are on their way to the titular mountain in the British version, the Trollenberg. They have a psychic act they do, as one of the sisters is actually psychic. She begins to have premonitions of death as they get closer to the mountain. It does turn out something is killing climbers by decapitation. The sisters reach the mountain resort by cable car and meet our cast of characters. Our lead is Alan, a UN troubleshooter who investigates this type of phenomena. This isn't the first mountain that has had this problem. You can tell it's a sci-fi movie because the UN actually accomplishes something. An odd cloud has covered the mountain, and climbers have begun dying, prompting his investigation. On the mountain is also a scientific observatory. We see a group of climbers head up the mountain not knowing the danger. Whatever is up there, it too has psychic powers, causing the men to turn on each other. The psychic sister tries to warn everyone back down at the resort. One of the climbers makes it back down the mountain, but the threat in the cloud has taken over his body. He is now on a mission to kill the psychic sister to stop her from warning anyone. We see the threat in the cloud use this tactic a couple more times throughout the movie, and it's good stuff. Stay out of the cloud or get converted, which I think is how that Devil's Leaf stuff works. The cloud begins to spread, coming for the humans, and as they try to evacuate, Alan is forced to confront the threat in the cloud. It turns out to be a giant crawling eye with tentacles. Alan and the others are forced to take refuge in the observatory on the mountain, where they hope the concrete walls will keep out the monsters. That's right, it's not just one, but a whole group of them. Alan and those from the resort try to keep the monsters back with Molotov cocktails and hope military help can reach them before the monsters break through the walls. The British version is way more effective, as it saves its reveals till later with a successive series of threats. It works really well, and I enjoyed the monsters' design once they show up. There's a few shots of the models moving or grabbing people with their tentacles that don't really work and look unnatural. The person in this instance being an obvious dummy to work with their model shots. Otherwise, for its day, it's very well shot. There is great tension and suspense in the British version, even though I knew what was coming from having grown up with the American version. The story was originally a series of television serials and this is basically a fresh movie adaptation, not just spliced clips from the serials. It currently has a 5 on IMDb, but I feel the British version would be closer to a 7. Forrest Tucker played Alan, the UN investigator, who was in a thematically similar movie, The Abominable Snowman, a year before. He was also in John Wayne classic The Sands of Iwo Jima. Weirdly enough, was the gorilla in Kong, a short-lived TV series from 1975. Also did Chisholm with John Wayne, was one of the leads on F Troop, and countless westerns and adventure movies throughout his career. He originally got into movies with The Westerner because they needed a guy imposing enough to face Gary Cooper in a fight scene. He served in the American Army during World War II, and on his return to Hollywood started off in The Yearling. Despite him often being seen in more action-oriented roles, he also had a good touch for comedy roles. He passed away in 1986, not long after trying to get back into movies, due to his battle with lung cancer and emphysema at the age of 67. Janet Monroe played one of the sisters and was in another sci-fi classic, The Day the Earth Caught Fire. She was also in Darby O'Gill and the Little People, and one of my childhood favorites, Swiss Family Robinson, as the girl they rescue later. It wasn't long after this movie that Disney signed her on, leading to her roles in Darby O'Gill, Swiss Family Robinson, as well as Third Man on the Mountain, another sequel to My Side of the Mountain, adapted from one of my childhood favorite books. She tried to break away from Disney with mature, more sensual roles, but audiences just didn't accept it. At some point, she developed a severe alcohol problem. She died under mysterious circumstances, with a rumor going around for a while that she choked to death in a London hotel while drinking tea. It was found later her death was due to acute myocarditis brought on by chronic ischemic heart disease. She was only 38 at the time of her death. This film has much of the inspiration for John Carpenter's movie, The Fog. As I said earlier, it was adapted from a TV serial, and they did carry over 2 of the actors, Lawrence Payne and Stuart Sanders. The American version of the film was later covered on Mystery Science Theater 3000, as was last week's The Spider. I quite enjoyed the movie, and it's another great one I discovered from AMC's Monster Fest from many years ago. It probably won't be for everyone in modern audiences, but if you like a good old sci-fi thriller, this will please. At the time of writing, there were various versions here on YouTube, but I'm not sure if they're the British cut or the American cut. I do want to mention me and some other creators recently started a t-shirt design company. I'll leave a link to the store in the description. Be warned, these just aren't for everyone. We only have 2 moods to the company: super goofy, ridiculous humor, or tributes to actual legends from around the world with our Built Different line. Otherwise, you can help the channel by subscribing or leaving a like. I'd be happy to reply to your comments and converse with you, but until next time, this has been Stormdog.
I want you to slam this door behind me. Wait for me to knock to come back in. If I don't knock, don't open it, right? All right.